Hello, welcome to another English Sparkling with Tweedy video. Forgot the name of the channel for a minute there. It has been a while, hasn't it? And I'm back out in the woods. It feels like that has been quite a while. I've actually been away for most of this week in Rutland. But anyway, back in London now, back to normal day-to-day life. It is Friday evening. That heat wave refuses to just die altogether, but it's I suppose we're all just getting used to it, aren't we? It's something like 28 degrees, just about managing to keep on this very thin Italian suit. It's unnecessary really, but I just think it looks a bit nicer in the video. Anyway, I popped out briefly. I was feeling quite lazy today. I didn't want to do a long trek to buy English Sparkling, so I thought I'd revisit Marks and Spencer. I remember last time I was there when I picked up that, I can't even remember the name of it now, whatever one of their own other in-house wines was called. I also spotted this. Don't think I've reviewed this before, but if I have, then sorry. I do seem to have a habit of forgetting this. It's made for them by Hattingley Valley, a producer I'm quite fond of. I think it's interesting because it's actually a vintage release. The regular releases from Hattingley Valley, at least, are normally non-vintage, I believe now. Perhaps in the earlier days they were vintage, I can't remember. So it's a 2018 vintage of Hattingley Valley made for Marks and Spencer. And I think it actually even works out a bit cheaper than regular Hattingley Valley, which is often on special offer, but this was only a tad over £30, and I think Hattingley Valley, the regular price for that can be a bit higher. There isn't much in the way of technical information on the back because it's effectively a supermarket own brand English Sparkling, and they don't, I think, expect their customers to be particularly technically minded when it comes to wine. We have the grapes listed as Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and Meunier. That would suggest they are in descending quantities. I believe Hattingley Valley's regular classic cuvée, whatever they call it, their sort of standard wine, is normally Chardonnay dominant. It comes across as quite a Chardonnay forward style. It's all about the baked apples, apple pie. I'm assuming this is going to be in that vein, and I would be perfectly happy with that because I like that. I like the house style at Hattingley Valley. Doing this left-handed, just happened to be the way I was holding. That's why it looks a little bit awkward. Very much right-handed. That is what we have. It has a slightly greenish tinge to my eyes, but that could just be the woods. It's quite dim actually. It's only 7:20. It should be a good 2 hours before sunset, but it does feel a little bit gloomy in the woods. Already, without even putting my nose in the glass, I think I've had a bit of a waft of an appley sort of aroma. Yeah, and that is very much there from that first sniff. It is, it often comes across as a slightly candied or baked apple. I think I usually end up saying baked apple because the overall profile of this is sort of apple pie. I think some biting insects are having a go at me. I haven't put any smidge on yet, I should probably do that. Yeah, so initial nose, very much slightly sweet, candied apple. 2018, remember of course, was a hot year, a bit like this one, 2026. So it did produce lots of sugar, very ripe grapes. Yeah, not getting much else actually pre-swirl there, but I'm not necessarily complaining. It's a very nice sweet apple sort of nose. A bit of a swirl makes that fresher and livelier, a bit more bracing on the nose. More of a sense of, well, I suppose fresher green apple. But yeah, there definitely is still a bit of baked apple in with that. And I think I'm starting to get some of the autolytic character, which often for me with Hattingley Valley manifests as pastry-ish character. No, that's not exactly classic autolytic. Autolytic character is supposed to give you sort of bready, yeasty smells. I'm not quite sure how you end up with pastry, because of course pastry doesn't contain any yeast, but something in that sort of bakery product spectrum. Yeah, nice. A little bit sort of sweet, a little bit fresh, Quite like that nose. Very much more of the same on the palate. First of all, pleased it's reasonably well chilled still. It was in the fridge at home for 4.5 hours before I took it out, put it in that ice jacket thing, walked straight here. So yes, at a good temperature now, I think. Nice little bit of zing. It is green apple type zing. It's a little bit tempered. I don't recall if they do malolactic fermentation or not, but it feels like the edge has been slightly taken off that. And it could just be by now the fact that it is getting on for 8 years old might have mellowed slightly. So it's still got a nice, fresh, lively, green appley sort of zing to it, but it's not searing and over the top. Sort of mouth-watering quality to that. Really refreshing. I think that's partly the fact that it's quite nicely chilled as well. Yeah, and again, the fruit quality there, the fruit character, sort of slightly sweet, slightly candied, slightly baked apple. None of that over the top, but still overall quite dry, quite acidic. But I think that really helps to balance these little flashes of sweet apple-like flavour and aroma. I know it's weird for an aroma to be sweet, but there it is. Yeah. Coming back to the nose, getting a little bit of a sort of brown sugar crust on a bit of baked pastry, a bit of, yeah, an apple pie. This is always where I end up coming back to with the Hattingley Valley, at least their sort of classic wines. Apple pie, a little bit of brown sugar dusted on the crust of that apple pie on the pastry. Slight thought of shortbread there. Really nice bit of balance there. I think that's what I'm enjoying about this on this occasion. The sweet and sour, particularly on the palate, I think are in really nice proportions. I'm enjoying both and not overwhelmed by either. So that's I think that's a really well executed bit of ESW personally. I mean, in a way, if I have to pick nits, it's a tiny bit sort of simplistic and straightforward, but you could repackage those same concepts as it having a sort of purity and focus. I think they mean the same thing, don't they? Simple and straightforward, or pure and focus. They're basically getting at the same concept. I might stop babbling now. I'm going to sit here for a while. If I do have any further thoughts, then I'll come back to you. But I think that's a good buy because I believe it works out slightly cheaper than regular Hattingley Valley. It is a named vintage rather than a blend. And I do think 2018 was a particularly good year for English sparkling. I think that's demonstrated very nicely what a little bit of extra ripeness, a little bit of extra sugar can bring to that blend, to that mix, to that balance, with still a really healthy, decent amount of acidity. Lovely stuff. Cheers.